If we judge the importance of a philosophical problem by the consequences it entails, the problem of the meaning of life is certainly the most important. I believe I can say that without fail. Someone who judges that life is not worth living will sometimes end up committing suicide. These type of people would be found jumping off the album artwork of Forest Hill Drives. Those who feel they have found some meaning to life may be inclined to die or kill to defend that meaning. They're willing to give up whatever they have in order to protect that, even if that means sacrificing their entire being. Camus suggests that suicide amounts to a confession that life is not worth living. Some would get to this point in life maybe due to their actions they see as unforgiving. So they give up and lay down. They bury themselves into the ground, hoping to never see the bright of day again, for that is all they wish for. For that is the mindset that most people contemplating suicide have, and with that, they'll never be able to experience the feeling of being mad, happy, or even sad. Let me tell you a story of a boy that has experienced his share of despair. His argument was that everything in life seemed to be against him, that things were unfair. To make things clear from the start, it was mostly his own actions that led him to calamity. It all began with a certain amount of steps that led to the feeling of absurdity. Day in and day out as a kid, he would feel as though he did things to make the world a better place. He felt that was his purpose, but as time progressed, he started to believe that wasn't the case. He fell into this sort of coma that left his body operational but his mind gray. That he wasn't a free agent, but instead a robot already programmed what to say. He started to feel machine-like, and that his actions of good were starting to just be a force of habit. And at that moment he thought this, he began to expand on that idea. His actions, his intentions, his feelings, his beliefs. All pointless and absurd, for that is all he heard from the inside of his mind, and from there on out, he didn't believe he wasn't himself, but rather no one at all. Life had become meaningless. That's what he had defined himself as. His personality shot, his life in the dark. But it didn't stay that way for too long, and he had given his situation some more thought. He analyzed what was going on and came to the conclusion that he was undergoing change. A change that was good for his life, a change that was predetermined to happen, a change that would get him one step closer to who he was meant to be, the him he wanted to see. Now you would think that this next part is a happy one, but some would say it's far from it. For the boy had another bad day, and that's all it took for him to want to be in a casket. The feeling of absurdity is linked to the idea that life is meaningless. And the act of suicide is linked to the idea that life is not worth living. But the question at hand is whether the idea that life is meaningless necessarily implies that life is not worth living. But it's actually quite funny if you think about it, how people seem to continue living life only because they're not sure what a meaningless life should entail. But for the boy, it was different. He had thought his mind was made up, and he refused the thought of other outcomes, that the solution to this situation was simply death, and that he would be at ease. No more thinking, no more doing, no more emotions to deal with. He had not brought his wallet, his phone, or any sort of weapon that night. The door had opened, the warm air escaped from the house, and so did the boy. He walked down the quiet streets, unprepared for anything that would occur. But he was okay with that. His sense of worry and concern were just a blur. He rested for a bit at a nearby freeway bridge, and that's when the choice was at hand. He was greeted by a hole in the fence that opened to the freeway to his wanted land. He sat on the edge inside of the hole with his feet dangling above the passing cars. All it took was one swift movement, and he would get what he wanted. Except he remembered that it was a choice, and more importantly, his choice. That one thought, that one realization made him rethink what he was doing. He got up and began to walk home, and at that same moment he saw his mom driving at 2 o'clock in the morning looking for her son. He dropped to his knees, he began to cry. A series of noises appeared in the situation. The screeching of tires, the opening of a car door, the taps of hasty footsteps against the asphalt, and finally, 2 sets of wails and sniffles. Camus suggests that our instinct for life is much stronger than our reasons for suicide. With some people this is true, others see differently, but there is still a choice being presented. We get into the habit of living before acquiring the habit of thinking. We instinctively try to avoid the consequences of a meaningless life with hope. Whether or not hope is just the act of eluding, why should it matter? We're able to do whatever we want, eat plastic or even make a banana out of cake batter. Bottom line, we follow whatever we believe and that we choose where we want to head next in life. It is all a choice. And what you choose is all on you, not dependent on what I say or even Albert Camus or maybe even Aunt Sue. What I'm trying to say is that the choice is up to you. Make sure that the choice you make today is the choice you want tomorrow.